Hello everyone and welcome to another video on the ToLiss Airbus A321. Today something slightly different. We're going to have a look at an AutoLand into Heathrow on runway 27 left. This will just be to show you it happening. I'm not going to talk too much about the systems or the setup. There's obviously a lot of real life systems and checking that go into flying an AutoLand. But today we have pretty foggy weather. RBRs on the ground, I think, were about 350 meters. RS27 left. I put in no decision height on the MCDU, so typed in no there on the rollout. Flat full landing, and we'll go for low auto brakes. And I'll just talk through some of the things I'm doing and some of the modes of the aircraft for landing, and it's just to see how the ToLiss A321 handles the landing. Like I say, not meant for any realistic approach to an AutoLand. In real life there are a lot of things, a lot of processes, which I'll talk about some things in another video at some point, but obviously this is all for home entertainment only. Great, so here we are at 4,000 feet. We are routing towards Heathrow 27 left. Platform's at 3,000 feet, but I'm going to intercept it 4,000 feet. I've set up the MCDU with the flight plan, the rad nav, it's tuned and identified. Progress page, there's a threshold 20 miles from the runway at the moment. Performance page is all loaded, as I said, no decision height. Flat full landing, plenty of fuel on board, buckets and buckets of fuel. So that's fine for now. So, a nighttime landing, I'm going to turn off the dome lights. Just down like that. I've got the integral lighting on the overhead panel and down here, and then some of these panel flood lighting. These lights are just down here, so main panel flood is that one. If we wind that down, these floodlights lower in intensity. I wonder if they've modelled the lights right here. No, doesn't seem to be there. But yeah, there we go. And this overhead floodlight, I'm going to wind that down as well. That lights up the centre pedestal. There we go, a nice cosy dark flight deck. Gives us a better view out. Of course, being a Cat 3B AutoLand, which is what we're going to do, we don't actually need to see anything. We've got no DH. So, 17 miles out, I'm going to arm the approach as if we were cleared by traffic control. So you arm the approach first, gave us lock blue and glide slope blue, and then once you've armed the approach, you can select the second autopilot. So now we have autopilot 1 and 2. That gives us this FMA of Cat 3 dual. So the airplane is at its most capable state for an AutoLand. It's got both autopilots working in case one fails, that sort of thing. I'm also going to manage the speed now, so making sure I've got 1 dot. Because I've already activated the approach phase in here, which on the performance page was down here. I've pressed that, so it's active. So now the airplane will reduce to green dot and S speed, then F speed as I introduce the flaps. Realistically, in an A321, you'd expect to have some sort of flap out before going down with the glide slope. Otherwise, the airplane could be quite slippery, quite hard to slow down. Great, so zooming in there. There it is, reaching green dot. The airplane should fly green dot with the auto thrust, which I can see it is. Thrust is increasing. Okay, before we reach that glide slope, we're going to put up flap 1. So out comes just the slats, and now the airplane will slow down to our S speed. Glide slope start. So now we are on the glide slope and the glide slope. I'm going to enter the go around altitude, so 27 left at Heathrow, climbing left to 2,000 feet. So 2,000 feet into the altitude window, but I'm not going to pull or push, I'm just going to leave it there, so it's selected for the go around. Great, and we see our go around coding in the navigation display. Okay, 11 miles out, to over 200 knots, I'm going to put up flap 2. And that with idle thrust we should see the speed start to come back. May need a little bit of speed brake. Foggy conditions like this often in calm winds, so as you can see here, just 3 knots up here. Similar on the ground, I think it might be from the north on the ground. In real life, lots of extra procedures will have gone into place. Air traffic control will have set up certain procedures on the ground for the safety of the AutoLand, so that the airplanes can use this ILS system properly. We are basing this approach on the ground instrument landing system, which transmits a signal to us, so that needs to be properly maintained, not have anyone or big metal things near it that could distort it, and all other sorts of procedures. And likewise, the flight crew would have done a lot of procedures to make sure that they're properly set up for this approach and tested the airplane to make sure the airplane is capable. As I said, this is just for fun to see how the ToLiss Airbus manages an AutoLand. Okay, we are quite fast, 180 knots at 8 miles, but the speed is reducing. We would check the glide slope, 2,500 feet, 7.5 miles. Oh, not good if you lose the chart. 2.3, that's 2.3, 2.7, so there we go. So 7.5, 2,500 feet. Great, 7.5, 2,500 feet, matches the red out. So I'm going to lower the gear now, just to help that speed reduce. Gear down. Put on the last of the lights. For landing, nose light will just go to taxi for this one. Not necessary to see the runway as we're doing the AutoLand with no decision heights in this scenario. So we're not looking for any lights. Spoilers around. So if you were needing to see the runway, like a Category 2 approach, then you might consider not putting on all the lights because it could be harder to see out the window. If the lights are blinding you from the cloud, if the light bounces back. Steam the cabin, make sure they're ready. And time for the rest of the flap. This flap 3. And flap full. Okay, so we are now stabilised at our approach speed. We are fully configured with the ECAM memo, including the cabin is ready. So now lots of systems that would be monitored. As I said, we'll have a look at the PFD for the landing. We're expecting a few things to change as we descend. So we want to make sure it stays at Cat 3 dual. If that reduces to Cat 3 single, then we couldn't do this AutoLand as we are. There's all sorts of different minima that would be required. And like I say, lots of airlines have their own procedures. So this is entirely just fictional. But the modes we're expecting to change. Glide slope and low glides are the current active modes. By the time we get after 400 feet to 350 feet, we would expect that to change to land, and that's based on the radio altimeter, this red out number down here. So we are 1,120 feet above the ground at the moment, descending. That will change to land, at which point the airplane is preparing to AutoLand. And then once we get down to between 50 to 30 feet, we expect the mode to change to flare, where it's going to begin the flare for us. There's that 1,000 call out, so we are stable. Continuing with our AutoLand. Ah, it's interesting. I wonder if that's our landing lights reflecting back at us. Just going to try turning those off. Not sure. I'll leave it on then. Yeah, so between 50 to 30 feet red out, expecting flare. After that, about 10 feet red out, we're expecting the airplane to say retard, which is an instruction for us to retard the thrust levers to idle. And then we're expecting it to land for us, which we'll be monitoring obviously very carefully. Lots of different systems could change during that time, and there's lots of procedures for that, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're just going to see how it works out. By the time the main wheels touch down, we're expecting the rollout in the FMA. So there's land mode. Yeah, so rollout will be the last one as we touch down with the main wheels, and that means it's guiding itself along the runway. Before we vacate the runway, we need to disengage the autopilot so that we can actually steer the airplane off the runway. Okay, so now we're just going to monitor to make sure these modes all work. I'll have to select the thrust levers and reverse myself. So there we go. Starting to see the runway lights.
50, 40,
flare.
30, 20. Retard.
Thrust levers to idle.
5.
There's the touchdown. Roll out. Selecting reverse. just use reverse idle today, long runway. So we've got reverse green, we've got the deceleration, both there, and also we can see on our PFD this down arrow. 70 knots reverse idle we've got. And now we can start to see our exit point. So what I'm going to do is take over manual brakes. Getting down to a taxi speed, we'll go to forward idle on the engines. And disconnect the autopilot so that we can vacate.
100. 50, 40, 30, 20. Retard. 5.
So there you go, that was just something slightly different, just to have a look at how the ToLiss Airbus performs it. That was really nice. I thought a bit of a float, so it floated along in the flare. I did see it do a tiny bit of drift correction, which the real airplane can land, auto land in a crosswinds. Different limits to the normal crosswind landings. But maybe we'll have another video at some point to see how well it handles crosswinds in the auto land. So we'll get ourselves out away from the active runway. There will be airplanes behind trying to land. Very important that you clear it properly, and we'll get further clearance from air traffic control. Okay, and I'll bring it to a stop here. Set the parking brake, which is hard to see in the dark. There it is. And here we are. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that was interesting for you. And if you have the ToLiss A321, you'll see how it handles. I'll be doing more videos on this airplane in X-Plane 11, so do please let me know if there's anything else you'd like to see. And thank you very much for watching.